Sister Wives fans blast Kody Brown for making Garrison pilgrimage all about himself. The Sister Wives community is reeling with anger and disbelief after the latest revelations about Kody Brown's behavior during his son Garrison's emotional pilgrimage journey. What was meant to be a deeply personal, heartfelt tribute to a son gone too soon has now morphed into yet another controversy surrounding the family patriarch. Fans who have followed the show for years are now drawing a hard line, saying enough is enough, accusing Kody of hijacking the grief and turning it into a spectacle centered around himself. As the dust settles and more details emerge, the backlash only grows louder, with many demanding accountability and empathy from a man who appears increasingly detached from the realities of his fractured family. When Garrison Brown tragically passed away earlier this year, the Sister Wives fanbase was heartbroken. The 25-year-old National Guard veteran and animal lover had his whole life ahead of him, and his sudden death sent shockwaves not just through the Brown family but across a national audience that had watched him grow up on TV. Tributes poured in for Garrison, with thousands of fans remembering his quiet strength, his love for animals, and the way he had stood up to Kody in the later seasons when tensions between father and son reached a boiling point. His death was a painful reminder of how deep the wounds had become in the Brown family, and how little Kody had done to heal them. Now, as the family attempts to process their grief and honor Garrison's memory, Kody Brown has sparked an entirely new firestorm. In a recent episode and accompanying footage surrounding a so-called pilgrimage Kody made in memory of Garrison, fans were shocked to see how quickly the focus shifted from the lost son to the grieving father's need for self-redemption. What should have been a solemn, reflective journey filled with memories of Garrison became, in the eyes of viewers, a stage for Kody to make himself the center of attention yet again. Social media erupted within hours of the episode airing. Viewers were quick to point out that Kody's monologue during the journey was less about Garrison's life and more about his own pain, his regrets, and most glaringly, his attempt to paint himself as a victim. One fan posted, "I tuned in expecting to hear stories about Garrison, how he impacted the family, the love they felt for him. Instead, we got a therapy session from Kody about his own suffering. Disgusting." That sentiment echoed across Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook, where longtime fans of Sister Wives expressed their outrage. Perhaps the most infuriating moment for viewers came when Kody tearfully claimed that Garrison's death had changed him forever, and that he was on a personal journey to rediscover himself. While grief manifests in different ways for everyone, fans found Kody's focus on his personal transformation to be tone-deaf and inappropriate, especially given his long and well-documented estrangement from Garrison. For many, it felt like Kody was trying to rewrite history, portraying himself as a present, engaged father whose heart had been shattered, instead of the man who had once told his wives that Garrison should move out because of his defiance during the pandemic. And that's what cuts deepest for the audience. Garrison had clashed with Kody in recent years over COVID-19 rules and Kody's increasingly isolating behavior with Robyn and her children. He felt unwanted and unloved by the man who was supposed to be his father. Kody's decision to cut Garrison out of his life, refusing to meet him halfway or try to understand his perspective, became a defining fracture in their relationship. For him now to claim the moral high ground, to act as though he was a grieving parent lost in memories, struck many fans as revisionist history. They haven't forgotten the cold, dismissive way Kody once spoke of his sons, and they refuse to let him rewrite that narrative now. Yanelle Brown, Garrison's mother, has handled her grief with quiet strength and openness. Her tributes to her son have been heartfelt and simple, rooted in love and pain. When she posted about Garrison's pets being cared for or how the family had gathered in remembrance, she gave fans a glimpse into the rawness of her loss. She didn't make it about herself, she made it about him. And in doing so, she honored Garrison's spirit far more than any speech Kody could deliver. Christine and Mary Brown also paid their respects in their own ways, remembering Garrison for the brave, thoughtful young man he was. They showed up, both emotionally and physically, to support Yanelle, and the message was clear. Whatever their past differences, this moment was about unity, not ego. By contrast, Kody's behavior seemed performative, almost like a man trying to rehabilitate his image in front of the cameras rather than authentically grieving. Critics pointed out how heavily produced the entire pilgrimage segment felt, with sweeping shots, somber music, and Kody talking directly into the camera about how broken he was. The production choices only added to the backlash, with many viewers calling the segment exploitative and manipulative. One Reddit user summed it up this way: Kody wasn't mourning Garrison. He was mourning the loss of control, the public shame, and the realization that his decisions have real, irreversible consequences. This wasn't a tribute to Garrison. It was a redemption arc Kody wrote for himself. The backlash hasn't just remained in fan circles, it's now starting to make its way into the broader media landscape. Critics of the show have begun to question whether TLC should have even aired the segment in the first place. Was it ethical to broadcast such a sensitive moment, especially when it seemed more like a PR campaign than a genuine tribute? Did anyone stop to ask if this was what Garrison would have wanted? Adding fuel to the fire are resurfaced clips from older seasons where Kody dismissed or minimized his relationships with his older children, particularly the sons who dared to speak up. Fans are sharing those clips as evidence that the grieving father portrayal is not just disingenuous but also offensive to Garrison's memory. It raises uncomfortable questions about whether Kody is more concerned with public perception than actual healing. To be clear, no one is saying that Kody isn't allowed to grieve. Even strained relationships are led with love and regret, and losing a child is an unimaginable pain no parent should ever have to endure. But what fans are demanding is sincerity, humility, and a recognition of the truth, that Garrison's final years were marked by conflict, distance, and emotional pain, much of which stemmed from his father's choices. If Kody truly wants to honor his son, many believe he must first own up to his role in that pain rather than using the tragedy as a platform for self-reflection and image repair. As fan petitions circulate demanding that TLC limit Kody's narrative control on the show and offer more screen time to the other wives and children, the network finds itself at a crossroads. Ratings have remained high, but so has criticism. Viewers are no longer content with passive storytelling. They want accountability. They want realness. And they want to see the show evolve beyond the endless cycle of Kody-centric drama. Meanwhile, Yanel continues to mourn quietly, surrounded by her other children, who have shown a remarkable unity in the wake of this loss. Gabriel, in particular, has stepped into a protector role for his siblings, offering public support for his late brother and ensuring his legacy isn't distorted. His dignified silence contrasts sharply with his father's televised lamentations, further highlighting the disconnect between Kody's narrative and the family's lived reality. As fans reflect on the episode and the larger legacy of Sister Wives, one thing becomes clear: this isn't just about Kody Brown anymore. It's about truth. It's about honoring a young man whose life was cut short, whose light was dimmed far too soon. And it's about making sure his memory isn't overshadowed by drama, ego, or manufactured grief. Kody's pilgrimage may have been meant to show a father in mourning, but what fans saw instead was a man still clinging to the spotlight, unwilling to share it even in death. The question now is whether he'll listen to the fans, to his family, to the truth, or whether he'll continue down the same path, blind to the damage he's caused. In the end, Garrison Brown deserves better. He deserves to be remembered not through the lens of his father's regrets but through the eyes of those who loved him, stood by him, and knew him best. And if there's any justice in how this story is told moving forward, it will be one where Garrison's voice, silent now but still powerful, rises above the noise. The way Sister Wives Season 19 handled Garrison Brown's death was so important. The Brown family honored his memory beautifully. In the emotionally raw world of Sister Wives, grief has often been led in silence, misunderstandings, or even conflict. But Season 19 offered something profoundly different. It gave viewers one of the most intimate, powerful, and heartbreaking story arcs the show has ever tackled: the tragic passing of Garrison Brown, the beloved son of Yanel and Kody Brown. As the season unfolded, audiences watched with tears in their eyes as the Brown family confronted a sorrow so deep, it reshaped everything. The way the show chose to handle Garrison's death wasn't just respectful, it was essential. In an age of sensationalism and dramatized reality TV, Sister Wives delivered something authentic. It paused. It reflected. It let the pain breathe. It honored a young man whose life had been lived with quiet strength and fierce independence. And in doing so, it gave the audience a space to grieve alongside the family, not just for the Browns' loss, but for the fractured bonds and missed chances that many families can relate to. From the first episode of the season, there was a shift in tone. Where past seasons often delve into the chaos of plural marriage dynamics, broken trust, and escalating tension, this time the pacing slowed. There was silence. There was mourning. There were glimpses of each family member in the wake of unimaginable loss. It wasn't polished or scripted. It felt real. The producers let the cameras linger a little longer on Yanel's tearful expressions, on Gabriel's trembling voice, and on Christine's unspoken worry as she reached out to support a family once her own. It became clear that this was not just about documenting pain, it was about preserving a legacy. Garrison's presence had always been a unique one on Sister Wives. Unlike some of the other children who chose to remain more private, Garrison grew up in front of the cameras. Viewers watched him transform from a playful, curious boy into a strong-willed, determined young man. He was not afraid to speak his truth, even when it meant standing up to his father. His disagreements with Kody during the pandemic became a symbol for many fans, of a child drawing the line, of a son refusing to be sidelined. Garrison's fierce independence and drive to make his own life, his choice to serve in the National Guard, his passion for rescuing cats, his dream of becoming a homeowner, reflected a maturity far beyond his years. So when news of his passing broke, the collective grief wasn't just the Brown families to bear. It was shared by a vast audience that had watched him grow, stumble, rise, and stand his ground. Season 19 made a wise decision. It didn't try to narrate Garrison's story with fanfare or overproduced sentiment. Instead, it let those closest to him speak. Yanel's voice became a central thread in the season, and rightly so. She didn't speak in grandiose language or stage her grief for effect. She let her pain speak for itself. Her quiet devastation as she looked through Garrison's belongings, her strength as she tried to hold it together for her other children, her broken whisper when she said, "He was trying to be okay. He was trying to be okay," these were the moments that hit hardest. Because they were honest. Because they were real. One of the most moving parts of the season came when the family gathered in remembrance of Garrison. The producers could have chosen to make it a grand event, but they didn't. Instead, it was simple. It was solemn. It was sacred. Photos of Garrison lined a table, some candid, others from special moments. Each image a frozen piece of time that told part of his story. Candles flickered. Words were spoken, but more often tears did the talking. The absence in the room was palpable. And it was that absence that said everything. Christine Brown, though no longer spiritually tied to Kody, stepped in with grace and love. Her presence at the memorial, her comfort for Yanel, her quiet moments with the kids, it showed that family can transcend broken relationships. Christine has long been known for her maternal instincts and unwavering support of her children, but in this season, she was a rock for someone else. She didn't try to make things about herself. She stood back, offering her shoulder, offering her presence. It was a reminder that in grief, we often find unexpected unity. The boundaries of who is in and who is out fall away. What matters is the shared pain and the shared love for the one who is gone. Mary Brown, often portrayed as the isolated wife, also stepped forward. Though her relationship with the rest of the family has been strained for years, she showed up for Garrison. Her tribute to him wasn't loud or emotional, it was deliberate and grounded. She spoke of his sense of humor, his resilience, and the spark he brought into any room. Mary reminded viewers that even when someone feels on the outskirts of a family, they still feel the loss deeply. Her inclusion in the season's tribute scenes was a powerful message, that grief makes space for everyone regardless of history or hurt. Perhaps the most complicated part of the season's narrative was Kody's involvement. His relationship with Garrison had deteriorated in the last few years, and that fracture became a glaring scar in the aftermath of Garrison's death. The show did not try to gloss over it. It acknowledged the distance, the arguments, the regret. Kody's scenes were some of the most divisive of the season. In some moments, viewers saw a man haunted by what he didn't do, by what he didn't say, by the doors he closed before it was too late. In others, fans felt his grief was filtered through defensiveness or image repair. But the season did not attempt to resolve this conflict. It left it raw. It let the audience decide for themselves whether Kody's sorrow was genuine, whether his expressions of regret were enough. This choice was an important one. Because in real life, grief doesn't come wrapped in clarity. It's messy. It's uneven. It forces people to face truths they'd rather avoid. By allowing that ambiguity to exist, Season 19 honored the complexity of mourning a loved one who died with unresolved wounds. In addition to the personal reflections, the season gave viewers a deeper look into Garrison's life, his passions, his routines, his love for his cats, his friendships, his hopes for the future. The show included touching home footage of Garrison laughing with his siblings, holding his cat, working on projects around his home. These moments weren't staged. They were precious slices of life. They reminded audiences that Garrison wasn't just a son, a brother, or a character on a show. He was a person. A whole, complicated, beautiful person. And his life mattered. Season 19 also subtly shifted the narrative arc of Sister Wives. For years, the show centered around plural marriage and the challenges it brought. But Garrison's death forced a change in focus. Suddenly, it wasn't about who was still married to whom, or who was building where on Coyote Pass. It was about legacy. About love. About loss. And in that shift, the show found its emotional core again. In the wake of this loss, there was no big family reunion. There was no magical resolution. But there were small, significant moments of reconnection. Gabriel and Savannah held each other a little tighter. Christine and Yanel shared knowing glances, the kind only two grieving mothers could understand. Mary and Yanel stood side by side at the memorial, silent but united. These were the moments that mattered most. Not because they fixed everything, but because they honored Garrison's spirit, a spirit that had always valued loyalty, authenticity, and courage. Fans of the show responded with overwhelming support. Social media became a place not of outrage, but of mourning. Thousands of viewers shared their own stories of losing siblings, children, friends. They posted photos of Garrison. They wrote poems. They said thank you to the Brown family for allowing them to be part of such an intimate moment. The ripple effect of that vulnerability, of that honesty, cannot be overstated. In handling Garrison's death the way they did, the Brown family and the show itself created a blueprint for how reality television can hold space for real grief. They didn't exploit it. They didn't dramatize it. They respected it. And in doing so, they reminded viewers that behind every episode, behind every conflict or camera angle, are real people with real lives. The beauty of Season 19 is that it didn't pretend to have all the answers. It didn't try to heal the unhealable. Instead, it bore witness to the ache, the memories, the cracks, and the flickers of light in between. It showed a family navigating one of life's cruelest trials with honesty and imperfection. And it showed a young man's legacy carried not just in words or episodes, but in the hearts of everyone who loved him, and even those who only knew him from a screen. As the season drew to a close, one image stood out. A photo of Garrison smiling, sunlit, with his arms wrapped around two of his cats. It wasn't staged. It wasn't posed. It was joy. Pure, unfiltered, radiant joy. And in that image, Season 19 found its final note. Not despair. Not closure. But love. Unending, unconditional love. David Woolley's stubbornness could cause issues in his marriage to Christine Brown. Is there trouble in paradise? The glow of a fresh start can sometimes hide the storm clouds building behind the scenes. That might just be the case with Christine Brown and David Woolley, a couple that once appeared to be the embodiment of second-chance romance. But whispers have grown louder and speculation is reaching a boiling point. Is David Woolley's stubbornness casting a shadow over their picture-perfect union? Is the dream of a happy ending for Christine already starting to unravel? When Christine Brown broke free from the entanglements of her spiritual marriage to Kody Brown, fans of Sister Wives rallied behind her. She had finally chosen herself, something viewers had been waiting to see for years. After decades of emotional neglect, Christine emerged from the shadows of polygamy ready to reclaim her happiness. Enter David Woolley, a seemingly kind and down-to-earth man who showed Christine a love she hadn't felt in years. Their relationship moved fast. After a whirlwind romance, Christine and David married in October. From the outside looking in, their love seemed like a fairy tale. There were vacations, constant selfies, and warm tributes online. Christine looked radiant. Fans rejoiced at her new beginning. But as the cameras turned off and the couple settled into married life, cracks, however small, began to appear. What started as playful jokes about David's quirks soon began to resemble deeper frustrations. And now, behind the smiles and curated Instagram posts, sources and fans alike are starting to wonder, is David's stubborn streak creating tension behind closed doors? Christine has always been an open book. That's one of the reasons she resonated so deeply with fans during her time on Sister Wives. She wasn't afraid to share her heartbreak, her triumphs, or her struggles. And now, even though she's no longer in the Brown family dynamic, her willingness to speak candidly has followed her into her new marriage. It was in a recent social media video that Christine laughed about something that made fans pause. She was explaining how David parks so close to the garage wall that she can't even open her car door. It was framed as a cute moment, an endearing annoyance that many couples experience. But the tone, according to some observers, suggested otherwise. Christine was clearly frustrated, and this wasn't the first time she had referenced one of David's habits as something she just had to live with. The question now being whispered across fan forums and social media comment sections is simple. Is David really the flexible, loving partner he first appeared to be? Or is Christine once again finding herself in a relationship where compromise feels one-sided? What's important to understand is that Christine came into this new marriage with a strong desire for independence. After spending years with Kody, where she often felt dismissed and marginalized, she swore to herself that any future partner would have to respect her voice. That she would never again be silenced or made to feel small. In the early days of dating David, she seemed to have found that.